Hey people.
Voice acting 101, huh? Cool.
Sorry about the wait. We had a little bit of technical difficulty. We managed to save it. Thanks, security guy.
Cool. Thanks, security guy. Yay.
Thanks, security guy. You did it. Okay, so for those of you who stumbled in here having no idea what's going on, this is a panel where we get to listen to the charming Alana Ubach tell us how to do voice acting, because I have no clue.
Wow. Okay. So when I first started in voice, my manager had recommended that I get a voice agent, a voiceover agent, and I didn't even know anything about the voiceover acting world. But she said, "Listen, I have a client of mine who really does very well in the voice acting world, and you should give it a shot." And so I signed with Vox. And Wes Stevens over at Vox started sending me out on everything. But this was before the iPhone. So I would have to go in-house and, say the lines. And I would be given scripts and stuff to read, and sides and pages and character breakdowns. And a lot of them were for little boys. And I just remembered all the cartoons that I grew up watching when I was a kid. And I just started mimicking the voices that I fell in love with when I was growing up. And that's how it happened. It's all about mimicking and timing. It really is. It's not any different than on-camera acting, except you can wear your PJs to work. Yeah.
That's fair. So how exactly did you get started with voice acting? Because you mentioned like, oh yeah, we knew a person who knew a person, yada yada. Like what was the first role that you remember doing in a professional setting, and what was that like?
It was for the role of a little boy, and it was on this nutrition spot. It was a segment for I think it was ABC, and it was like a nutritional message from the ABC television network for little kids. And I played a little boy that who was Mexican American, and he liked to play soccer. And it was about how potassium is really important. So the line was something like, "Bananas give me energy, just what I need for soccer." And that was it. That was my first gig and my only line. And there you go. The rest is history.
So going back to the whole say yes to everything, but
say yes to everything.
Say yes to everything, of course. How, in your opinion, has sort of the industry of voice acting changed over the years? Because again, you have a very, very colorful history within the industry, and someone as involved as you, I would imagine, has something to say on the subject. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, there are a lot of voice actors that are solely voice actors. For instance, Gray Delisle, who has been in the business for years and years and years, and she sometimes does like 4 cartoons at one time. That's astonishing to me. I do on-camera work, so if I actually do book a cartoon, it's such a treat, and it's fun and it's easy. It comes easy to me, and I'm always excited to book any kind of voiceover acting job that I can get, because again, the voiceover actors, the professional voiceover actors that do this full time are so much fun to be around. They're just lovely people. They really are.
So, other than the aforementioned dress code, shall we say, for the profession, what major differences do you personally see existing as someone who has done both on-camera and off-camera work, if we're going to call it that? But like, what is there a process that you differentiate between voice acting and acting on film, for example?
A lot of the time you can walk into a voiceover gig and just wing it by just reading whatever's on the page. I don't necessarily recommend that for on-camera work. That doesn't really fly. But a lot of the time, what you audition for for the voiceover gig is usually what you end up reading on the job, and so those are the same pages that you read on the job. So it's easy to access, to go to your voice memos and look up that one recording that you did and know exactly and remember what you did, because a lot of the time I'll go out on like 4 or 5 voiceover auditions a week, And it's very easy now to audition for voiceover gigs no matter where you are, because you can go into a very quiet spot, record yourself on voice memos, and email it to your agent, and then they email it over to, you know, the employers. So it's a lot easier nowadays to be a voiceover actor than it is than it used to be, because way back when you had to go in-house into your agent's office and record yourself every single time you got an audition. So that was a pain in the neck.
Now you just get to sit in your closet with your pajamas on.
Yeah, there you go.
So transitioning from that, let's take a hypothetical for a second. Let's say I'm this plucky young upstart with stars in my eyes and what have you, and I have dreams of being, you know, being like you, being in the big pictures and all the cool voice acting things. How would you recommend somebody essentially take that first step? How would you recommend somebody to start if they wanted to become a voice actor?
I honestly have no idea nowadays, because I've been doing it for such a long time. I've been doing it for like 20 years. So I don't know how one starts nowadays, but I'm assuming the most logical thing to do would be to move to either New York or Los Angeles. Get involved in a voiceover acting school or a voiceover acting class, and then you'll probably be able to get representation from that. But you cannot get any kind of representation unless they have heard your voice in, whether it's on-camera stuff or whether it's stuff that you've done here and there, you know, local ads, what have you. But start to look and see if there are any, you know, local employers hiring for voiceover gigs, and go ahead and do it. And then from that, maybe you can get a little reel. But I highly recommend living in Los Angeles or New York, because that's really where all the work is.
I had a question, I forgot it. I'm very professional. What sort of rituals do you sort of go through? Like, okay, I'm going in for a voice acting gig, or I'm preparing for a voice acting gig. I'm popping my face, it's horrible. Like, is there any sort of like, okay, well, this is my routine if I want to get ready for this audition, or if I know I'm going to be reading for this role, like, here's what I do beforehand. Like, I drink a lot of tea or whatever.
Sure. I don't, you know, it really depends on what the character is. If the character's older, I don't do anything to prepare for it, because the huskier my voice is, the better. So it doesn't matter. But just talking on the phone with someone in the morning, just having a conversation is enough to warm up your voice. Like what we're doing now. Just conversing in the morning, calling your mom up, calling a friend up on the phone, talking to them on your way to the audition is enough to get your voice warmed up. You don't have to do all of the, you know, no, unless you're maybe going in and singing, or unless the voice is really, really high, like Minnie Mouse or something, then yes, maybe. But I highly recommend vocal training for someone who wants to do voiceover work, because it's very important to know your range. Know your range and know your limits.
How critical would you say, and again, I'm talking about getting into the industry, so we're going to try and kind of play that by ear. To get into the industry, how critical would you say it is to, say, like, have an agent beforehand to represent you, or was that something that would come, say, after you've done like 1 or 2 gigs by, you know, some stroke of luck?
It's imperative to have a voiceover agent, otherwise you just don't know about the projects that are out there. And they do. They have connections to all of the new projects that are coming in. They're able to get you an audition. So having an agent is imperative.
Sure. For somebody who, let's say, wasn't able to get local work, for example, but still wants to, you know, say, you know, I've got some chops. I'm gonna try and see if this agent will take me on. What, like, is there anything people could do, say, to demonstrate, like, hey, I've got moxie and here's what I got?
There's something called there's a studio in Burbank called the Mark Grau Studios. And the Mark Grau Studios, they basically provide a bunch of different sides for male actors between 20 and 30, voice actresses, and you know, for elderlies, for non-elderlies, ethnic roles, whatever, and they can record you doing these roles, and you can show them, yes, I can do a Bugs Bunny impersonation, I can do this, that, and the other, and they'll put together a reel for you, and you can have it, and you will be able to send it to voiceover agents, and you'll see who's interested and who's not.
Okay. So clearly there are people here who are curious as to how to get into voice acting or what it might be. So I think at this point I'm going to open it to the audience and see what questions they might have. I'm just going to ask, for the sake of our tech people, that anyone who does have a question use the audio mic up at the front, only because apparently the recording doesn't like it when you don't talk to a mic. It's snippy, so I guess we're just going to play it by that rule. So is there anybody who would like to ask a question for Ms. Ubach? Not everybody at once. Oh, okay, here we go. Nice, fine gentleman. Yeah, you're fine. All good.
I'm just curious in a technical sense. So you've done both scripted work in terms of a full movie, and you've also done a lot of video gameplay. Is there a different way to approach video gameplay where you have maybe one line out of, you know, an hour of playing versus where you have a continuous role in a animated movie? Do you do them differently?
For Grand Theft Auto, I was in and out in 20 minutes. I mean, you know, they call me into this little tiny booth. They give me a bunch of little things here and there. Okay, you just got punched. You're stumbling. You're falling. Ah! Am I falling with a thud and a land? Yeah. Ah! You know, and then it's the line is, "Girl, you better run. Girl, you better run. Girl, you better run." Who got shot? And it's whatever is going on. Am I running? And then you're done. And that's it. And you go home. But then again, you'll sometimes get an entire script like this, and it's, you know, an entire episode of a cartoon, and you just do your lines, and sometimes the director will be behind the console and he will read the lines right before yours, just so you can, you know, at least have someone to act off of, and then they'll record you, and you'll do about 3 different takes of the same scene. And sometimes you do 3 different takes of the same line, depends on how they want to go. I usually like doing line by line, 3 in a row, and then 3 in a row, 3 in a row, and then that's it. But it's very simple, and it's not very time consuming, and it was time consuming with a group of people in the room. We would sometimes be there for 3-4 hours. And I don't know if I think what they decided to do was, well, we're saving so much more time if we each bring them in, you know. No one is goofing around. It's all about just the recording, and that's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. Anybody else want to come up to the mic?
When we did Rango was interesting because Gore Verbinski insisted that our facial expressions be superimposed behind the actual animated characters. So he would film us actually acting out the scenes. So he'd film Johnny Depp in a little cowboy hat and, you know, and chaps and walking around pretending to be Rango. And he'd have just, you know, a makeshift little table like this pretending to be the bar that he walks up to. And his expressions, his real expressions and his real reactions were actually underneath that little, gosh, it was not a gecko. He was a
lizard.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
It's late. He was a chameleon, and so behind that little animal, those were really Johnny Depp's expressions, and those were all of our expressions behind all of those characters. It takes longer, but the quality is really amazing when that happens. And I believe they did the same thing for Coco, because we were all videotaped acting out the scenes.
So Mama Golden was just naturally that disgruntled.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, very sassy. I saw a hand over here. I'm crazy. No, I'm crazy. That's fine. Oh, there's one.
Yeah.
So to kind of lead off of what you were just saying, have you ever found that whenever you're doing voice work, is it easier to kind of like get up and be more animated yourself to help like sell the character? Where I've heard like Mark Hamill can never just sit down and do his like say Joker act. He has to get up and be animated and yell and scream.
There
Or-
you go. It's very different for every actor. For me, I really like to sit down. I like to sit down the whole time because it just relaxes. It relaxes me. I always feel like if I'm standing and I'm just saying the line, it really creates a lot of unnecessary extraneous tension that your body doesn't necessarily need and that you can actually hear in the voice. And so by me just sitting down, it's much different than me actually saying the line like this, and it's a little too over the top. I tend to go a little over the top when I'm standing.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you so
It's
much.
too theatrical.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sort of to jump on that, and I'm not nearly as professional as you in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, yeah, you
but oh, stop. As somebody who does a lot of radio theater and has sort of a similar skill set, one thing for me when it comes to like, do I stand up and be animated or sort of take a more laid back approach like you do? I personally like to be a little more laid back myself because I think especially when you're starting out with voice acting, it's really easy to say, like, oh, okay, you're running along and a guy you're gonna swing a sword at this monster, and it's really easy, without proper mic etiquette or what have you, to go, ah! And you just, you get caught up in the moment and you go completely off mic. So personally for me, being a little more laid back helps ground myself a little bit whenever I do that. Yeah.
I agree. I truly agree. And also, if you're going to be there for a long time, you don't want to be standing the entire time. I mean, not
Yeah,
for me.
that's
I
true.
just get tired very easily.
No, I'm 100% with you on that. Anytime I get to sit down for a performance is great. I hope everybody learned something about voice acting today. Thank you very much for coming, Ms.
Thank you
Ubach.
so
It's always
much.
such a treat to do these with you.
Oh,
I say it
this
like
is
I've been doing
awesome.
it for years.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
For everybody who wants to see more of Ms. Ubach, potentially might have more questions, go to the vendors hall, say hi, have a good time.
It's my last night. Thank you guys so much.
It's last night, do it fast.